Hey guys, Anthony from Go Industrial here. We get a lot of questions about how to set up my Graco sprayer, how to actually spray, and also how to clean up your sprayer once you've finished. And so we've created a 3-part series on how to get that done. This is part 1, how to set up your Graco sprayer, and we're going to throw to Jacob on site, who's going to run you through that now.
So first and foremost, why we're using an airless sprayer for this particular job is because it's definitely the fastest, most thorough way of actually completing this pergola. We're going to get a much thicker film build with the paint across all of our surfaces, which means protection against the elements. It's going to be a lot faster. We'll have minimal overspray. It's actually quite a fun way of painting, which takes a lot of the frustration and labor out of it. Once we have our airless sprayer, I'll show you the main components and how to get yourself set up. First, we actually have the main airless sprayer itself, which has our fluid pump on the unit. We've got a couple of simple controls here, which I'll run you through in a second. The other main component you have is your actual paint hose. And then just over here, we have our main spray gun. So obviously the pump's gonna run the paint through the line, into the gun, and we'll be spraying from the actual handpiece itself. So let's run you through that step. First one, screw. Make sure that power's off and the unit's turned off, so it's not under pressure, it's not gonna start pumping. We have our main paint hose. And you'll just need to tighten that up with a wrench or a spanner. Because this unit runs at a high pressure, we'll have to make sure it's more than hand tight. There we go. So once we make sure it's nice and tight, we're ready to go. Second step is connecting our handpiece. So Renee has fantastic taste and she's already sourced tint exterior to start the pergola itself. Why use tint paint? You can get it delivered directly to your door. It's low VOC, which just means that there's no harmful chemicals and toxins that are actually used to manufacture the paint. We've sprayed a lot as Go with the tint products now, and we really like the coverage, durability, and the formula to spray. So not a lot of paint companies formulate their paint to spray effectively. So we'll get set up now. We're gonna open up this paint tin, put our suction tube into the paint, and we'll show you through the initial priming process. So firstly, to start the priming process, we've already strained the paint. If you haven't used your paint for a long time, it's definitely worth straining. Otherwise, if it's brand new out of the drum, give it a good mix first. So it'll be nice and thorough here and mix it through. Because we'll be spraying or atomizing this paint, we want to make sure that there's definitely no paint skin or any paint debris in the tin itself to block up our spray line or our spray tips. That's the most frustrating thing when you start spraying and it blocks. Luckily, the tips are designed to easily be unblocked, but for a seamless finish, definitely a step worth considering. So I'll give this a good mix now. So now we've strained the paint, we've decanted into one of our iQuip buckets. We're going to show you through the priming process. So right now, my pressure dial is all the way off. My power is off. I have here my main suction hose. So this is where we're actually going to put into the paint. It's got a strainer on the bottom. Make sure the strainer is attached when you put it in the paint. This makes sure that any skin or any debris that I haven't strained out of the paint will hit the strainer first. So we're gonna pop that right into our main paint pail there, and this is our drain tube. So when we're initially priming, paint's gonna come through the suction hose and out through the drain tube, because it's a bit of a cycle. It actually has to get paint primed through the pump first, before we then change our spray direction and push it through our paint hose. So get a waste pail. This will be very handy throughout this process, and you're gonna detach the drain tube from the main suction hose and put it into the bucket. From here, all we have to do is turn the sprayer on, and we just have to, at a very low pressure, prime the pump. So you can see, we'll have water get flushed out, and now we have paint. As soon as you get straight paint running out of this drain tube, that's all you need. The pump's primed. I can actually attach this back against our main suction hose. And we want to make sure we definitely do the step to attach the drain tube. What happens is when we're spraying, if the machine overpressurizes for whatever reason, it'll actually relieve pressure out through the drain tube. If this isn't attached, you can picture a hose flicking up in the air like this. We're not going to get a nice coat on the pergola from down here. Keep your waste pail here, and we'll show you through setting up and dialing in your spray pat. So before we start priming, if your Graco Magnum Airless has this feature, there's actually a release ball button that we press twice or 3 times before priming. Just make sure that it's gonna prime easily and effectively. All you need to do there is push that once, twice, 3 times, and then we can work up our pressure and start priming through. So if you've started priming and there's no paint actually releasing out of the drain tube, your ball in your pump may be stuck. So that's another reason to press this priming button. That'll free up the ball and you'll be able to prime. So now it's primed through the machine, we actually need to run the paint through the main paint line. So what we'll do, we actually have our handpiece which has our trigger lock engaged while we've been doing all these steps to make sure we're definitely not going to spray ourselves or anyone around us. Release the gun lock, we'll hold down the trigger. There's no pressure to the gun right now. We'll actually turn the pressure up, and we'll change it from prime into spray. Now we have paint through the paint line. Usually if you'd actually flush the machine and put it away, that'll be water that's been released as it turns across the paint. You'll notice pretty quickly. We only have to put a little bit through to make sure it's actually fitting through to the gun. And now we're ready to set up our spray guard and our spray tip and dial in our pressure. So during this step, we're actually going to turn the pressure all the way down, put the machine back into prime to release the pressure and pull the trigger into the bucket just to make sure that we actually have no built up pressure. Because if we spray our hand, it's a very serious safety concern. If you do pierce your skin at any point in time, go straight to the hospital. To start, put the gun trigger lock on so we're not going to spray ourselves. We have two main components here. We have a spray tip and we have a spray guard. And again, this has got a bit of a butterfly shape here to ensure that you're not going to place your hand in front of the spray guard or tip at any point while you're spraying. This will simply thread straight on. Make sure that you have your Graco 1 seal in the back of the guard. We have another YouTube video that we'll put in a link here to show you how to do that if you haven't already. So it's as simple as screwing this on. The guard only needs to be screwed on hand tight. It doesn't need to be tightened with a wrench or a spanner. As soon as that's in, you can see that we have a groove just here and the tip's actually machined to fit this groove in sideways. So our tip will actually go in sideways, it'll click in and you'll know when the tip's in properly because there'll be a bit of resistance as we switch the tip around. So the tip in this direction will actually spray and atomize in a fan. Reversed, it'll tighten like a water hose and it'll be a stream of product which is actually used to clean the tips out. Hence why these are called reverse A-clean tips, RAC. So there's no adjustments on the gun itself in terms of your fan width or how much paint's coming out. That's defined by your tip. So the way our spray tips work, these are our fine finish low pressure tips. This is definitely what we recommend with our Graco Magnum unit. They essentially provide less overspray. They provide a much better spray finish. They're a lot more forgiving on the pump because they only require half the working pressure to actually atomize the paint. Definitely the way to go. So the tips have 3 numbers. The first number doubled is your fan width in inches. Today we'll be using a 3-1-2. 3 is the 6-inch fan, which is perfect for this pergola we're about to spray, and it's a 12 thou orifice or 12 thousandths of an inch. You don't really need to know that. It's big enough to spray a water-based exterior paint. Essentially, your tip size will increase with the thicker the paint it is. So if you're spraying a fence, for example, with tint exterior, you'll be anywhere between a 14 to a 17 thou tip. If you're spraying interior walls and ceilings, you'll be anywhere from 14 to 17 thou. If you're spraying stain or enamel on trim and doors, you'll be right down in the 10 to 12 range. So we actually have a spray tip guide on our website, which will provide the link in this video, or get in touch with us or Tint and we'll definitely help you out in recommending the correct spray equipment to suit your project. So with that, let's get this pressure dialed in and we'll show you through that process now. So now that we're all set up, we've got our spray tip and our spray guard on, we're gonna be adjusting our spray fan to be perfect for what we're needing to do. So the first step is we're gonna flick the unit, we're gonna turn the pressure up slowly when it's in prime, just to make sure it's primed through. We'll turn that pressure off. We're going to put it into spray. So this is our spray and prime switch. Pop that up there. And now we're going to start at our lowest pressure that we can, just above the prime indicator on the pressure dial. And we'll work up from there depending on how much pressure we'll actually need. So I'm just sitting above prime. I've got my gun lock on. It's built to pressure and it will stall when it's reached pressure. So it's not running continuously. So we'll test out the spray fan now. We'll show you how it's done. So we're using a 312, as I said, it's a 6-inch fan and it's the smallest orifice that works with exterior acrylic because exterior acrylic is quite thick. So tint exterior is pretty much the thickest paint you can get in the range. Tint interior and tint primer or prep is a lot thinner in viscosity. So we can actually get away with using smaller tip sizes. But because I'm doing so many passes today and I'm working with quite intricate battens, I do want to use the smaller tip size to get around that. We always want to be conscious of when we're dialing in spray fan that we've got enough paint coming out. We always want to make sure we're getting a nice blended gradient when we're spraying to ensure that atomization is correct. So it's not splattering, it'll just be seamless. So we'll dial that in now. As you can see here in the spray fan, I have what we call tailing or fingering. It's where we've got even product through the middle and it's too low of pressure, so we actually have a tail on either side. We don't want that because when we blend it by 50%, you'll see that there's actually a difference here in our pattern. So what I want to do is go back to the sprayer. I'm going to adjust the pressure up slightly more and that'll help with atomization and it'll eliminate those tails. So now that I've adjusted the pressure higher, this should eliminate the tails. See, that's a lot better already. So now when I'm overlapping, I'm getting a seamless spray pattern. I would recommend doing this step every single time with a sheet of cardboard before we hit the substrate you're wanting to paint. So now we'll show you the spraying technique when we get started and we'll get this project underway.
Thanks for watching, guys. Hope you enjoyed that one. Make sure you check out part 2, linked in the description. We'll see you there.